G'day and welcome to Dog Talk. Camilleri.
And I'm Laura McKillop. We'd like to start by thanking Enduro for their ongoing support in bringing you our weekly live Q&A. Tonight we're fortunate enough to be speaking with Adrian Carpenter from Bama Kelpies.
Adrian will be picking who he thinks has asked the best question of the night, and they'll be winning a bag of Enduro Plus, high energy food for working dogs with kangaroo meat.
Hi Adrian, how are you going?
Good. How are you going?
Yeah, good, thank
Good,
you.
thanks, mate.
So let's start off. Tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from and what you do.
I live in a place called Cressy in Tasmania, which is in the northern end of Tasmania. Manage a place here, or two places here for the one owner. One's got 40,000 acres and the other one's got 10,000. Mainly doing the livestock. A couple of us do livestock nearly all the time, which I've got a Kelpie stud called Bama Kelpies. Yeah, so we've got Angus cattle, crossbred sheep, and merino self-replacing flock with some merino wethers.
You've said we a few times, mate. How many people working on the property there?
There's six of us at the moment.
Yeah, right. She's big enough.
Yeah, keeps us busy.
Mate, what's the country you're working on like, and does it require a certain type or style of dog?
Oh, it varies really. There's flat country. There's sort of, being Tasmania, there's a fair bit of hilly sort of country. Then there's bush, like pretty thick bush that we run some wethers in. And then we've got country up in the Highlands, which we run the cattle in, which is a fair bit of scrub. And yeah, just a basic set of cattle yards. So, yeah.
And you're mentioning before, a little bit earlier before we got on that, always good with the water, with the river running through and a bit of rainfall?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we've got quite a few pivots, and on the place up in the Highlands, it's flood irrigated. We can just open a few channels up and we can flood irrigate it during the summer. So it ends up being a pretty good summer block.
So did you grow up in Tassie or move there?
No, I grew up in Tassie on the east coast of Tassie. Yeah, lived there till I moved here 11 years ago. Yeah.
All right.
I'm sort of over there. I managed a little smaller place, but mainly I shore for 15 years and then wool classer for another 10, and then come over and done this job.
Yeah, right. Haven't got too far from home, mate.
No.
Nice and comfy.
Yeah,
So,
a bit colder out here on the east coast, but yeah.
Where did your passion for livestock and working dogs come from?
Oh, my grandfather, as a young fella, he used school holidays. My grandfather was a stocky, so spent most of my school holidays either with him or in a shearing shed. So my father was a shearer, so that's spent all my school holidays either going with my grandfather or my father. So yeah.
Really, yeah. So how are you using dogs in your day-to-day life at the moment?
Beg pardon?
How are you using dogs in your day-to-day life at the moment?
Oh, yeah, every day I'll use them. Like either mustering, or we're just weaning lambs and that at the moment. So a bit of yard work there, drafting lambs, jetting sheep, and yeah, then we'll be crutching next week. So yeah, nearly every day I've got them with me.
How close are those dogs to the ones your grandfather and your dad used to use in shearing shed?
Oh, a long way away. It was a bit different back in them days. There wasn't too many purebreds. If somebody had a good dog, you took your dog around to him and mated him, and that was between Smithies and Border Collies and a bit of Kelpie. There wasn't that many Kelpies about over that way. Yeah.
So tell us a bit about the current team you've got there at the moment.
I've got all Kelpies at the moment. Do play around with the Border Collie every now and then, but got a bit of a Jai Moores bloodline in Wine Bar. Got 3 dogs there. Got one from Neil Lynch and a couple I've bred myself, which go back to Gary White stuff.
And those particular lines are suiting what you're doing there, or is it you toying with different stuff, or what? Why have you got those particular breeds?
Yeah, they're doing most of my work. I probably lack what old school, like real mustering dog, like to do the bushwork, then you sort of need another different type of dog to do that, I reckon. Or very few of them that you get to do full on yard work, and the ones I've got now can sort of do paddock mustering and hill mustering, but the real bush dog, which you don't usually take into the yards as often. Yeah, I wouldn't mind another real good one. They might have a good Scorioki one years ago, which sort of more or less jump off the bike and you didn't say another word and he'd bring them back to you, cattle or sheep. So chasing something like that again.
Anyway, that dog sounds like he could have got better if he could ride the bike himself.
No, he's all right though. Yeah.
And why Kelpies, mate?
There's as good a border collies out there as Kelpies. I just haven't come across them. I've found the ones that I've mucked a bit ain't as versatile as the Kelpies I've got. So yeah, I just reckon the versatility. You do a lot more yard work than you used to do, so you need that bit more punch in the yards now, like because you're weighing so many lambs and putting things through the yards a lot more often than you once used to. So yeah, just the versatility with the Kelpie I'm finding. Yeah, and they'll work cattle, the ones because we're doing as much cattle, a fair bit of cattle work. So you could head off with a ute load of dogs, and you could be doing anything from mustering a side of a hill to pushing a bull back into a paddock or something. So they've got to be able to do most farm jobs.
Why do you think you're doing more yard work these days?
Just because of the fat lamb job being so good, and you're weighing them before you sell them. You're drenching them. You seem to just be handling sheep a lot more. You rotate your sheep more than you used to. There's a lot of set stocking before. Yeah.
So what type or style of dog do you prefer?
I like a dog that treats his stock good. I don't like a dog that hassles sheep all the time. A dog that thinks for himself, but he's still, if push comes to shove, we deal with a lot of crossbred ewes, and they soon sort out your dog, whether they're or same as an Angus cow. They've got to have a bit of kicker, so you get the job done that way. I don't like not getting the job done.
And has that changed from where you started with dogs getting into it? Like, has that style of dog changed for you?
Because I was shear contracting and mucking about like that, I just had a more full-on shed dog, sort of get them out of the paddock sort of dog, more than a mustering dog, where I've tried to find a dog with a bit more feel outside, but keep the strength in them.
Yeah. So are you breeding many pups these days?
Not a lot, really. Probably 2 litters a year, just to get one for myself, and usually have a few people want one or two. So, yeah. No.
How's that going for you, mate? You're retaining them?
Yeah, I've got a couple still here, and yeah, Tim, the bloke that works for me, does as much stock work as I do. He's got one of mine, and he goes all right, and the one I've got goes pretty well. They're a couple I bred, and I've got another young one coming on that I've bred myself. Yeah.
What do you like about the ones you're breeding?
What I like and dislike, yeah, there's a bit of both, but yeah, no, they've got enough strength that they're all round. They can do a day in the yards, but also go and muster most things I want to do. Yeah.
How do you go about picking a pup for yourself?
There's no real secret to that, I don't think. I just like one that likes you. That's probably the boldest one in the litter. Other than that, yeah, luck of the draw, really.
Luck of the draw. You don't have any special little
sometimes
things
I look for one with a big wide head. Hopefully there's more brains in
there. How's that theory going so far?
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Then there's no particular colour or gender that you prefer?
No.
Very cool. What advice would you give to anyone wanting to purchase their first dog or a pup?
Well, yeah, like I said, I go for the boldest one in the litter. Yeah. And if it's your first pup, that usually ends up all right, because the biggest trouble you have when you get a few dogs, you don't spend enough time with them. Usually when you got just the one, it's your first one, you want it to be all right, and usually does end up pretty good. The first one, if he's got a bit of breeding behind him, because you spend all that time with him, you take him everywhere with you.
Is that something you notice? Like a lot of people that spend all that time with one pup, they can go take that dog a bit further rather than people have a few pups and they might not get what they necessarily could have by spending all that time.
Yeah, I always say, and the blokes, if they listen, they'll laugh, because I always say, you don't need more than 2 pups at a time, but somehow you end up with 4 or 5. And
Yeah, always the way.
you don't spend enough time with them. In my job, when you're sort of pretty flat out, it's all right if you've got a bit more time, but you should only have 1 or 2 pups at a time. Yeah.
Away from work, do you spend time with your pups much?
Yeah. Most weekends I try to muck about. Tim comes down and we have a bit of 3 or 4 of us sometimes have a bit of a play around with our pups and see who's got what. Yeah.
And how much time would you spend with your pup away from stock?
They're always running around here, and I don't know how you put a time on it. Sometimes you spend a fair bit of time with them. My partner Kristen, she probably spends more time with them than me, but they're real young, and then you start to show them sheep and you muck about, but I don't try and do too much. I let them go bowl along on their own accord when they're young a bit, just to see what they've got, and when they're getting a bit more serious, start do a little bit with them.
Question here from Chris Hicks. If you're not having a great training session with a dog, how do you finish on a good note to try and achieve some form of a win for both dog and handler?
Well, you try and pick something the pup's going to be that can achieve. If you've been training with it, sometimes pup will do some certain thing all right. So you put it in a situation where the pup's going to win whatever you're doing with it, and then take it out. Don't try, like normally you're training a dog, you start off with your normal stuff that they've got the basic of, and then you try and teach it something else. Well, I'd go back to the basics that it is doing all right, so you walk out with it winning that situation. Sometimes eventually you're going to have to make it do it.
Are there any particular traits you'd like to put into your line moving forward?
Just that
mustering?
The mustering type side of it, yeah. The rest, in bits and pieces, I've got most of the other stuff half all right.
Yeah.
There's definitely better ones out there, I know that. But, I'd just like to put the dog that thinks and musters pretty well uncommanded, and just a bit more of that back into, like I did have a couple of.
You mentioned there that, you've got a lot of things that you like, and do you think that's why you change? Like you mentioned a few different studs earlier, or lines of dog, so that you have those different tools in the toolbox?
Yeah, that's exactly. And we don't get over to the mainland that often, but the lines I've chased, the dogs I've seen that I've really consistently do the things I want without much effort.
And I suppose that's a pretty important thing there, like having a look at different styles of dogs, and so you can determine, what dog's going to suit you by actually watching them, rather than taking a stab in the dark.
And the way the handler works them, you don't want a dog that you got to be. If you're working stock all day, you don't want to be a dog you got to be commanding, or you've got to be on top of all day. It just becomes hard work when you're doing it 5 days a week. You want a dog that you can be half a lazy stockman and just drive along, and half go to sleep, and he's in the right spots and the stock going in the right direction. But and that's what I'm sort of trying to look for. But then when you get to the yards, they've got a couple of gears and they go up. They don't have to be a real bash and crash, because if you put your dog in the right spot, they'll flow through the yards, show the sheep the opening, and most sheep will flow without too much bark. I don't like a dog that just barks for no reason at all. That's not as bad as a dog barking on the back of your ute. Very annoying.
I reckon you just described half my mates then, mate. That's why they have so much time to Snapchat during the day. Because they're just throwing their dogs out and put the windows back up.
Yeah, that's the best way you can do it.
Question here from Natalie Grimmer. Do you find your better sheep workers translate their ability to cattle well and the other way around?
Yep. All mine do. They all. The thing is, you've got to educate your cattle to your dogs. When I first come here, they used to bust them with bikes and totally enforced dogs, and then they'd break in about 6 different directions and go whichever. Now you put your dog in the paddock and the cattle run together, and if the dogs don't hassle them too much, they know where the gate is before you even got a point. They'll head that way. So, but all you've got to have is a dog willing to hold his ground. If one decides it wants to have a bit of a go, and then it's all pretty easy. It's the same as if you've got a dog that overheads and sheep or whatever, your sheep get used to not walking in a straight line. So you're fighting them all the time. If you've got a dog that steers them pretty correctly and puts the weight in the right place, and that the sheep get used to it and they just walk off your dog anyway. And it becomes a pretty easy instead of fighting all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Best test for your dog's lambs, because if they don't put the weight in the right spot, you've got a mess.
And you mentioned about the cattle breaking. Like, how long, from cattle breaking 6 ways to being able to look for a gate, how long a process does something like that normally take?
It probably took us a couple of years between the two of us. The work stock very similar to sort of just, and we didn't do anything special. We just kept doing the same thing and the same thing. When we handled them and when we got them to the yards, you didn't try and bash and crash them through the yards. And then the cattle just settle down, and they know if they go out the other end, they're not going to get harassed. The same as they go through the gate, they know they're not going to get harassed.
Yeah.
Second part to Nat's question, you were referring to strength in your dogs. Does this strength show in bite, bark, or are you preferring a dog that mainly uses its presence?
Yeah, mainly uses presence. I'd never say bark with strength. Never. Like, it's a handy tool to have sometimes, but that's not strength. Strength is a dog that will stand in front of a cow when it's coming at it and not move. It doesn't even have to bite them in the nose, but occasionally it does teach the cow that not to keep coming. But strength is just something that holds its ground or moves forward positively when under pressure. That's my idea of strength. And go to that position in a yard or whatever is probably, some dogs don't want to be there, but that dog that's strong enough, he'll keep going there all day for you. And he'll keep the back up without doing it. That's presence probably more so than strength. Sheep will just naturally want to move off him.
How far and few are those dogs for you guys down there?
It's hard to say. It's like there's a few about, but the trouble is you can't comment because there's a lot of people you just never see their dogs. There's some blokes I know got some good dogs, but I've never seen them. Like, I've seen a few pups they've bred, and they're good pups. They're strong, but that's why a mustering dog's so hard to find somewhere to go to mustering. You can go to a yard dog trial and a 3 sheep trial, but they're actually not showing you a mustering dog or a utility trial. A mustering dog's something that, again, and you just can't get onto people's places unless you know somebody to go and actually see them in action. That's probably that's why the mustering part's so hard to get hold of.
Yeah.
So for you, who were the most influential dogs to get you to where you are today?
Michael Johnson's Buster. I used a fair bit of that stuff. Rick Jones's Silver City stuff, or Jones's, or whatever you want to call it. And I've got a fair bit of Justin Toombs's George stuff through Wine Bar and a couple other ones. So that's
What,
sort of.
what do you think made them special and suit you?
Well, I see Michael a couple of times down here, and I just like the way Buster worked and well, what he did in trials, he must have been all right. And yes, I tried a bit of that stuff. I tried a bit of Kevin Howe's Corona stuff too,
Yep.
which was Buster stuff as well. And I've always sort of liked George and Gary White's stuff too. But George, every time I've seen trial, I've never sort of really seen him have a bad trial. Like some
Yep.
dogs do have a good trial. He's always, every time I've actually been lucky enough to see him, he's always gone pretty good. So, and he moves his stock, or used to move, he moves his stock pretty good. He's probably on the blanket somewhere now. But
I think he's sitting in Tim's lounge room in the middle of the lounge there.
yeah,
He's been a pretty consistent dog, George, hasn't he? And mate, talking about different lines and what you've done, how do you go about starting a pup?
well, I just introduce it to sheep, say 6 to 8 weeks, just to get them not to do anything, just to have a look at sheep. And yeah, once or twice a week, keep introducing them to they switch on, and then just let them be themselves for a while, depending where the pup is at and how it's going. Start to do a little bit with them. I don't do a lot with them to the 6 months old, just the real basic stuff, like get them to come to you and sit and that. And then some are even, it's sort of, you got to read the pup a little bit. You know, not all of them switch on early, and some of the later ones that switch on are probably some of your more thinking dogs sometimes. Yeah, it's all a little bit different. It's more reading your pup than saying set times and set procedures. Yeah.
You sound like you're a pretty patient person, mate. A lot more patient than myself.
I've done all the other stuff. Used to want them up and about and get rid of them if they wasn't doing nothing by a certain time. But yeah, it depends how many you got around you too.
Yeah, 100%. And how much you like them?
Yeah, and that's the main thing of all. You know, if you don't like the pup, not very often it's going to end up. You might as well sort of move him on, because you know how it is. If you're not bonding with him, it doesn't have to do a lot wrong for you not to like it.
100% is better with somebody else.
Yeah.
Have you taken many dogs on that haven't suited other people? Then they've been a superstar for yourself, or you just kind of grabbed you?
I've had dogs from other people. I wouldn't say any of them's been superstars, but they've been good dogs and done on purpose. I might have got them because for some reason I got short on dogs, and because this job you need a couple of injuries, or a couple might die, or whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't say any have been superstars, that's for sure. I usually find if you get them as a pup and train them yourself, and you usually have the best bond and the best results.
Yep. As long as they're a superstar at home, mate, nothing else matters.
Well, and I dog trial and whatever, but end of the day, you dog trial for 12 minutes with a dog. If you've got it working for 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, he's got to work at home first, or other it's a long day.
That's right.
Another question here: with the natural type of worker that you are obviously preferring, how much training would you say you put into them in general? Is it a case of mostly letting them learn on the job due to their natural setup, or would you put a fair bit of command on them before taking them out?
You do the basics with them, because you've got to have a recall. You've got to have the basics to get them. But we're talking a natural dog here too. So a natural dog can make you, if they're a really good natural dog, they can make you look a good trainer pretty easily, because they always go to the right spots normally, and that's why they're natural. And they usually can read their stock, so they usually you've only got to have a recall on them to take them to work. And the more you put on them, the better they get later on. But you've got to be a little bit careful. And I'm probably talking the real mustering type, that you don't put too much on them, because they're probably not. Well, this is only what I found.
Yep.
They're probably a bit softer in the mind, the real intelligent mustering dogs. So you don't want to put too much. You don't want to take their thinking out of them. Otherwise, you've lost what you want in over commanding them and letting them think for themselves. If you don't let them think for yourself, well, you've defeated what you wanted in the first place.
Yeah, correct. You've turned a dog into something you wanted, not what you're looking for to start with.
Yeah, that's If you want a robot, but it's a long day at work.
Don't have to feed robots, but I don't know, they haven't got personalities either.
No.
We've spoken about trialing a bit, mate. How long have you been trialing for?
Oh, probably 25 years now.
Yeah. How'd that come about?
It was when I got into Kelpies, and I thought, oh well, I've got to, as you do, I suppose, you think you've got a half all right Kelpie, and you think, oh, I want to go and see how good he is, and just went along, and from there, and he had a couple of, he was pretty rough and ready. He was a sort of shed dog with a bit of force and a bit of whatever, but he went all right for a couple of trials, and
you're all right, mate. You want to grab that?
No, pretty good. Get rid of it. And then I got the bug, and he sort of, he wasn't over successful, but he won a few things for me, and then you start to think, oh, I need this and I need that, and that's when you start looking at what's about and trying to get better, and then the bug's away, isn't it?
Was there anyone that sort of influenced you to go do that and give it a go?
No, not really. No. There's a bloke called Michael Williams who was very successful in Tasmania, and he had the Bear Rock Kelpie stud, and he was still trialling then. He doesn't trial anymore, and he was very good to me when I come along and helped me out, and I always liked his type of dogs, and they had a bit of grunt about them and whatever. So he was probably the bloke that helped me the most. And then I've met people on the mainland since who've been very good. Yeah.
And what type of trialing do you prefer, mate? Or what have you had a crack at, and what do you prefer?
I really like the utility trialing. I haven't done very much at it, and I'm not very good at it, but I think that's the closest trialing there is to your working day situation.
Yeah.
In Tassie, we struggle with enough young numbers to do an enclosed yard dog trial, so we just can't get enough people to do utility trialing. So we don't get much. We have one or two sort of farm utility trials, but I really like to get in that and have a line of dogs that was really good at that. But that's probably down the track a bit further.
Yeah. And mate, you do a bit of yard trialing there. Do you want to tell us about your involvement with yard trialing in Tasmania?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm president of the Tasmanian branch of the yard dog trialing, and so we've got a probably hectic 6 months coming up with trying to organise the Australian and the National Kelpie down here.
Yep.
Which we've got on the 30th, the Utilities National Kelpie's on the 30th of March to the 2nd of May, and then we go into the yard dog from the 6th to the 9th of May. 6th to 9th of May, all here at Connerville. So, we'll have a bit of work. Hopefully everyone will get fresh sheep, and we've got enough sheep so everyone's got fresh sheep every run they have. So we'll try and make it fair and as even and as good as we can.
Wow, that's awesome, mate. How many people are you expecting?
Oh, it's just hard to know what COVID is, and the boat's a little bit of an issue. If anyone is thinking of coming, I've tried to get in contact with them, but they won't do me any favours. But just trying to help people out and get on it, but they've just got their set whatever. And so if people are thinking of coming, they should ring up the Spirit and book. The best way to is if you're going to bring dogs, don't try and do it online. Ring them personally, and because they can put you on to space and what's available and that. It doesn't come up that well on the internet, but yeah. And also trying to have a cattle trial while everyone's down here. That's not final yet, but hopefully I'm get the last couple of dots together and we'll do that and hopefully have an all-round dog over the 3 events. But
That'd be pretty cool.
Fingers crossed for that.
Yeah, so.
You didn't call the boat to give them a list of names of people not to let over, did you?
No. We want as many as we can get. Beggars can't be choosers.
Thought I'd ask the question.
So, how is trialling in Tasmania different from trialling on the mainland, if at all?
Besides numbers, I suppose.
Yeah, numbers is a big thing. And of course, the numbers, it's not as, the top end dogs. There's not a high number of top end dogs. Like the main trials have probably got 1 or 2 that it'd be competitive on the mainland, but other than that, yeah, that's just lack of numbers and so forth. Nearly everything else we do the same.
Yeah, same kind of course setup.
Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah.
Is there any, being the president of the Tassie Association there, is there any changes you'd like to see to trialling in general or trialling within Australia?
Not really. It's working pretty well as is. There's no need to reinvent the wheel, is there, when it's working well? And you want it so people are bringing working dogs to the trials. You don't want it to get too technical that it becomes a specialised event. Like the 3 sheep have nearly become that. Then you're starting to breed dogs that haven't got a working background if you go too technical. That's the main thing I don't think we should do. You should be able to take your dog off the farm and put him in a trial and do the course without making it too technical.
Without becoming professionals.
Yeah, well, you can make it professional, but don't be professional about the way you go about it. Yep. But don't make the rules so they're technical that they're not practical.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree with you, mate.
Yeah.
In your travels throughout Australia, is there something you see handlers struggle with, and where do you believe they can improve?
I struggle with a lot of things, so I don't know why I should comment on that one. No, I'll leave that. No, but everyone knows what people struggle with. Yeah.
You got a question there?
Question here from Natalie Grimmer. In the country you're working, do you use more whistle or voice commands?
A bit of both. Yeah. Obviously, when they're further away, you're probably whistling a bit more. Yeah. And especially if they're out of sight.
Yep.
Like just so that if they're pulling the sheep back to you, like we've got a few valleys and top of ledges and that you can't see your dog when they go. So you're just trying to tell him where you are. Hopefully, he naturally brings them back, pulls them in a straight line. Yeah.
And have you got a preference? What about in the yards?
Well, mainly voice command in the yards. Yeah. Yeah.
Occasionally
I use it. Occasionally, I use a whistle with it, but mainly voice. Yeah.
Do you find you have some dogs there that you kind of have to whistle with more than use a voice?
No, not really. There's probably the other way around.
Yeah, right.
There's a couple of I've got to use my voice instead of a whistle.
I reckon that's because you sound like a patient kind of bloke, mate. So I can't imagine you there screaming their head off at them all the time either.
Sometimes it can happen.
Question here from Maddie. If you had to choose sausage dog or Kelpie?
That's my daughter.
She's stitching you up, mate.
Yeah.
I think we still need an answer for that one.
She's all good.
Do you have a favourite trial to participate in, or would like to?
Obviously the Australian's my favourite. Yeah, like Bendigo in Victoria, I like going to that show. But Australian, and I like going to Western Australia. Like I like the way that I just like it over there. They're friendly. They want you, really good hospitality when you go over there. Yeah.
Yeah. And is the trialing itself any different?
Over in Western Australia it is, yeah. And I probably like the way they do it a little bit in that you can run in the yard or you can do a utility and the yard or just do the outside arena work. I think because they're a bit the smaller club, I think they find that works well. And what I've seen of it, it seems to work well. Yeah, and they're probably because I've got a lot more border collies and that over there. They've got quite a few that just want to do arenas and that too. So they're trying to keep everyone working together. So that seems to work pretty well.
Question here from Ollie Hansen. Which of the dogs that you've seen in the last few years would you love to own? George, it would have been. Yeah. I like Matty Sherwood's dog, Wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you like about Wonder?
Oh, just the way he didn't hassle his sheep and he had nice distance. And yeah, I've only seen him a couple of times, but I always liked the way he worked. Yeah. Yeah. And I like a couple of Dean Inches dogs, Rafa and Hulk.
Yep.
Yeah. More so for the other way. They just seem to get the job done well. Yeah.
And you've mentioned before, and obviously I've mentioned that you've been pretty patient. I have a question here. What's the longest you would wait for a dog to fully switch on?
I have waited nearly 12 months.
Yeah. You are patient.
Yeah. And that was because the bloke told me they were really do switch on late. So
Yeah.
and it ended up going really well. Yeah. Yeah, that's the outer limit though. Like and it depends. If you only got one or two pups, you can probably wait that long. But if you've got 6 or 7 pups and 5 or 6 of them switched on, you're probably going to get rid of the one that hasn't switched on.
Yeah.
There's some real good breeder or somebody with a lot of dog knowledge that said, "Oh, I'd wait a bit longer for that pup." You always take advice from people that are better at it than you.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned before, when have the Australian there, you try to put on a cattle trial. Is cattle trialing something that you do a bit of in Tassie?
No, not at all.
Yeah, so this will be I'm saying one in a year, 1 in 2 years. That'd be pretty rare.
Yeah, well, it's the first one ever I know of.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, wow.
There you go. So everyone jump on board if you're down in Tassie. Like, hopefully they can get it going and let's get on board and support it.
Yeah, so hopefully it will. Yeah, I've just got anything I've got to line up some panels and a couple of other things, but yeah.
Just throw up some bloody string on a couple of pickets, mate. Should be all right.
Got a few Angus cows here, you know.
Maybe not.
What do you feel is your best achievement so far?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to win a couple of Tassie championships. So, and this year, which I was only a tag along, but we won the Tasmania won the Interstate Challenge. Simon Bowden, he done all the hard work. I just tagged lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. But yeah, so that was pretty good, for a small state like us. So yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
Actually, being a small state, how many handlers would you expect at a yard trial?
15.
Yeah, okay. So I'm assuming it's going to be pretty competitive amongst 15 people. Like, you get in there.
That's including novice. So yeah, sort of. Yeah. Our open just at the moment only about 6 or 7 competitors. Yeah, it's just we're just going through a period. We had quite a few, and then was just dropped off, and a couple with work commitments and different things. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool, and I suppose it'll be pretty competitive. And I know I've met some of the Tassie handlers, at Australians, and pretty awesome people, and be pretty competitive. Just having smaller bunch of blokes or people, men and women. There'll be a bit of rivalry between us.
Yeah, it's all good. We all, well, 2 or 3 of them come up here and work at different times, so we all like a beer together anyway. So as much as you hate losing to them, you can always have a beer after.
With 5 or 6 competitors, you should swap each other's dogs out one day and trial them and see how these all go.
Yeah, don't know about that.
So when starting out, who inspired you to get into dogs?
In the trialing? Oh, no, I just sort of see a couple of adverts about it, and I got that dog like in when I was working in the sheds and shearing and wool classing, and thought I'd like to test him. Went from there.
Has there anyone that you've seen like handle a dog and gone, shit, I want to learn something from that person?
Oh, yeah, there's been 2 or 3. Justin Toombs, he don't seem to ever get flustered, or he seems a pretty handy dog. He's running around the course.
I think he's got cool in his veins.
Yeah, Gary White, he's obviously
another
one is and Jake Nolan, I'd like to do one of his schools at some stage. He's got different training methods. So if you take 1 or 2 things away from him, you're learning something all the time.
Do you get the opportunity to run many schools for beginners down there?
Oh, we try and run 1 or 2 just through the club, just to get a bit of money into the club. But and a couple of people come down, and we try to get somebody down every now and then. So,
And do you get many new people coming through the trialing scene?
You do, yeah. We've got a quite in the novice now. We've got probably 6 or 7 new people coming along. Some last and some don't. Yeah. So.
Is there a message you'd like to get out into the industry?
Oh, just enjoy working your dogs.
Yeah.
If you don't enjoy working it, there's not much point doing it.
No, it's tough day in the office if it's stressful, isn't it?
Yeah. It can be stressful enough without not enjoying working dogs.
And what do you do away from dogs, mate? Any hidden talents or hobbies, or are you one of those people that at a party and you've got no one to talk to because there's no one to talk about dogs?
Oh, that'll sheep.
Yeah.
Do a bit of fishing. A bit of shooting. Not that much shooting anymore, but that's about the extent of it.
Yeah, okay.
Is there anything you'd like to see us introduced to Dog Talk, or?
I think it's going pretty well as it is. Just sit here and answer questions. And
I was hoping you'd be the first one to tell us that you've got to do this, and this is how you got to do it, and this is why.
I think it's we're pretty it's hard to talk to people or get stuff when you're down here. So you hear of people's names, and because I've been away a couple of times, you've met a few people, but it's good to hear about their backgrounds and that sort of stuff. It's pretty interesting. And obviously you had cattle people on, and everyone that probably would have never ever met, but you sort of get to hear about their life and how they've come about it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's no, thanks. That is something we try to do, try and spread the love a bit, so everybody hears a bit about everyone and everybody's interests.
Anyone you'd like to see us sit down and do a Q&A with?
Oh, I'd like to get Toomsy on here.
There you go, big fella. Toomsy.
Rick Jones. Rick Jones. I reckon he'd be pretty interesting to have on there.
Yeah.
And somebody from Western Australia. Yeah. Gordon Curtis or somebody like that.
Actually, talking to Gordon, and reception's been a bit of an issue for Gordon. So it's something that we are working on. When we started Dog Talk, that's one thing we kind of didn't account for was poor service how poor the service was in Australia
and time differences.
And we didn't really allow for
daylight savings
and different time allowances either. So. But there you go. We'll get back on to Gordon and see if he's if his reception's got any better. Mate, any particular question that stood out for you there tonight?
What's the girl? Was it Grimmer?
Yeah, Natalie.
Natalie.
Well,
Perfect.
there you go, Natalie. Get in on board. Give us send a message, and we'll get a bag of Enduro dog food out.
So it's that time of night. Thank you, all of our members, for tuning in, and of course, Adrian, for your time tonight. Really appreciate it. Before we go, one question: would you rather fight one duck the size of a horse or 20 horses the size of ducks?
I definitely wouldn't want 20 horses here. So one horse the size of it, one duck the size of a horse.
That's purely just a numbers game for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll answer right then. So, everyone, hope you had a great night. Please remember the day we stop learning is a sad day for all of us. And have a great night. Thanks again for your time, Adrian.
Thank you.
No, I see ya.
See
Cheers,
ya.
mate.